creating environments of resiliency and hope. My name is Mark Meekum. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio Association of Child Caring Agencies, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to this summit today. The organization that I represent, OACCA, partners with the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and Department of Developmental Disabilities to convene this summit. So actually, this time last year, almost exactly to the day, we held the second annual summit, and I was up here giving morning remarks. And that happened to be the morning after the Cavs lost the NBA Finals. So it was a pretty somber morning, and everyone had stayed up to midnight, watching Game 6. So this morning's a lot different. In fact, in Cleveland, one of the largest gatherings ever is taking place right now to welcome the Cleveland Cavaliers on a parade through downtown. Ended a 52-year drought in the city of Cleveland, winning a professional sports championship. And just think, 52 years from now, the Browns may actually win. All right, I have just a few housekeeping items I'd like to go through. So you should have all picked up an agenda this morning, the color handout. So you'll see in just a couple minutes, we're going to hear from State Department directors and Medical Director Hurst from OMAS. And then at 9:15, our morning keynote starts, the neurobiology approach with Dr. Sims. Then we're going to take a break and come back here at 11 for a panel called Trauma-Informed Care from the Experts, Persons with Lived Experience. Then we're going to clear out of this room for a few minutes and come back and enjoy lunch from 12 to 1. Then after lunch, we have two breakout sessions. Session A, from 1:15 to 2:30, take a short break, and actually there'll be a snack over there where you got breakfast and coffee. And then the last session is Session B from 2:45 to 4. So, during the breakout sessions, there's several different rooms over in this part of the hotel, and actually part of these rooms, where those sessions will take place. And if you get lost, just find one of the volunteers and we'll direct you. On the back of your name tag, there should be stickers that show what session you signed up for. So that's how you can remember. And if you don't have any stickers, that means you didn't sign up for a session. That's okay, you can just go to whatever session that you want to this morning. So today, we'll conclude at 4 p.m. And there has been two minor changes to the schedule. So during session B, there was a session called Trauma-Informed CQI, using what we learned to change what we do. We regret to inform you that that session was canceled because the presenter had something that prevented her from being here today. So in place of that session, we're actually repeating a session from earlier in the day. We are going to offer transforming a large, complex organization into a trauma-informed care agency, led by Dave Paxton from the Village Network, again during Session B, in place of that. So you can attend that in Session A or Session B. And if you get confused about the schedule, please don't hesitate to contact one of the volunteers. The second change is, originally we had a session called the Use of Treatment Outcomes Package, or TOP, with Pamela Alexander during Session B. And that session was canceled a couple weeks ago, and we informed everyone who signed up. So you won't even see that one on the agenda. So many of you signed up to attend tomorrow's event too, which we're calling the Trauma-Informed Care Institute. Pre-registration is required to attend tomorrow. And if you are registered, you're welcome to arrive at the same time, anytime between 7:30 and 8:45, to check in and get breakfast. And the first session will promptly start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Today's sessions are eligible for 4.5 CEUs. We're authorized to provide social worker, counselor, marriage and family therapist, psychologist, and chemical and dependency counselor CEUs. And all you need to do is sign in. You should have already done that. And then in each of your individual sessions later today, you'll sign in again. So that means you'll sign in a total of 3 times today. Then at the end of the day, you'll turn in your evaluation form to one of the tables out here. And the psychologist, you have a separate sign-in sheet that you should have seen on the table out here this morning. At the very end of the day, those of you who need CEUs, you'll pick them up. And if you had to leave early, you can also pick them up, and we'll email you a revised CEU with a little bit of less hours noted on it. So most of the handouts from the summit are already posted on our website. We emailed you that link with your confirmation email about a week ago. We're going to email you the link again today. You'll notice that not all the sessions, not all the handouts are on there. We've put everything that we have. So as some of the presenters email us their presentations, we'll just keep updating that website. So you should expect even more to be posted today and tomorrow. Most of today's workshop presenters are already with us in the room. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you volunteers who have taken the time to submit a proposal and organize your session in advanced trauma-informed care in our state. We really appreciate your support. And finally, I wanted to thank the Summit Planning Committee, particularly Kim Kale from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and Carolyn McDermott from OWACA for your tireless work to plan the summit. And with that, I'll now turn it over to the leader of this incredible trauma-informed care initiative, the medical director of LMAS, Dr. Mark Hurst.
Thanks, Mark, and good morning, everybody. I want to give special acknowledgement to all of you from Northeast Ohio who decided to come here today rather than stay up in Cleveland for the parade. I see a Cavs shirt over here. I see Patrick Boyle sitting over here who would love to be up at that celebration. But recognizing this is a different kind of celebration that we're having here. And we have good reason to celebrate. 2 years ago when we had our first summit, we weren't exactly sure where things might go with this. But when we started, we said that the sustainability of this and the advancement of this doesn't lie in what I would do or what Kim does or what anybody else within the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services or Developmental Disabilities might do. It relies in the passion, the commitment, and the goodwill of people in this room and people who aren't in this room to forward this cause. And I celebrate all of you for doing that. So please give yourselves a hand. And as we talk a little bit about celebration, the Cavs winning is certainly something to celebrate, but there's something and someone even more important to celebrate, I think. Many of you know Pat Risser. Pat Risser was a tireless advocate for individuals with mental illness, addiction, and all individuals who are discriminated against or underserved in any particular way. Pat was a consultant to our trauma-informed care initiative here. He was also a consultant to the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration and had input into TIP 57 that many of us use as the basis for our trauma-informed care interventions. Pat passed away a couple weeks ago, and he'd been at all of our previous summits. We're going to miss him today, but know that he's still with us. So we're certainly going to be missing Pat and want to have a tribute to the work that he has done. When last night when I was doing a little bit of reading, I know it's hard for you to believe that I actually do read things sometimes, but came across a few articles here that I think tell us something about where trauma-informed care is heading in the United States. The first one is an article from a couple of weeks ago. Childhood trauma predicts antidepressant response in adults with major depression. And basically it found that those individuals who experience childhood trauma and are depressed are less likely to respond to antidepressants, particularly those who experience that trauma prior to age 7. Another one, severe psychosocial deprivation in early childhood is associated with increased DNA methylation across a region spanning the transcription start site of CYP2E1. So that's a lot of specific jargon, but basically what it indicates is how early childhood deprivation affects an individual's DNA, which is something that can be long-lasting and have long-term impact on their well-being. And then finally, transforming the healthcare response to intimate partner violence, addressing, quote, wicked problems. And what this points out is how screening alone for intimate partner violence is really not enough, screening and referral, but making it a part of medical practice to actually deal with this in a meaningful way is something that's likely to be impactful. The point of all of this is that these are well-respected medical journals that are addressing trauma. This is not something that's undercurrent just in the behavioral health field. This is something that the whole medical field is beginning to endorse, which is really important because I think increasingly we recognize that an individual's life outcome, be it psychosocial, be it economic, be it physical, has a lot to do with how we treat one another as people. When we treat each other well, there are good things that happen in all those ways. When we treat each other poorly, there are bad things that happen in all those ways. This is the next phase. This is how we're moving forward here, and it's due to the undercurrent of support that all of you have demonstrated in terms of trauma-informed care, advocating for it and pointing out these things to physicians, to psychologists, to researchers, and to other people. This is a way we can really impact our society and really impact our healthcare system. And I'm excited that we and you are part of that because we can really make a change with all of it. And I'm really happy to have the support of our directors with this. Director Martin and Director Plouck have really been tireless advocates with this. When we started talking about this, they immediately said, "This is a great idea, let's go." And we've gone, and they have encouraged and supported and challenged where we might not be going the right direction. And I'm just so grateful to be able to work with both Director Martin and Director Plouck as we keep working on this. So with that, let me sit down and introduce Director John Martin from the Department of Developmental Disabilities. Dr. Martin, Director Martin.
Well, I'd like to say welcome to everybody, and particularly those of you from our community, the developmental disabilities community. And I was thinking back, as you can probably tell, I've been working in the field almost as long as it was that Cleveland never had a little over 40 years in the field of developmental disabilities. And I was thinking, when I came into the field, the lens that we use to look at folks with developmental disabilities was totally driven by very strict behaviorism. And I'm sure a lot of you in the field came in at that time when we used that. A lot of us followed the teachings of B.F. Skinner, and then the folks who came after him, Richard Fox, who adapted those sorts of things. And so, we kind of totally looked at folks from this lens of stimulus and response. And I still remember back with some folks that I worked with in my early years in this field, and I remember one individual who was... not a great term, we used it then, was a headbanger. And you know why we said he banged his head? Because he needed attention. Okay, and so how did we try to stop him? Well, withdraw attention when he... And that was the kind of lens, for better, for worse, that we kind of used to look at folks with disabilities. We didn't think, gosh, maybe he has migraine headaches. Might be the reason that he was banging his head. And as what trauma has, I think, brought to our field, and that's why, again, I deeply appreciate all of those of you with disabilities who are, or work with folks with disabilities in our system who are here today, is I think it brings us a so much richer understanding of the people that we work with. And the fact that most of the folks in our system, on top of other issues, have such significant communication struggles, both in terms of receptive, understanding why things are happening to them, and not having an understanding of why they're going through surgery, why they're experiencing the pain that they're experiencing. And so you have those comprehension issues which really impact how trauma may affect their lives, plus their ability to communicate to us what they're going through and what they're struggling with. And so when you add those complexities onto all of the other parts of their life, the role that trauma plays, I think we're growing and growing in our understanding of the impact of trauma in the lives of the folks that we serve, and how our approach in working with them needs to change in response to those life experiences that they've had, which they may or may not particularly well understand. So we're really pleased. I appreciate the work folks in our department have done. We did a webinar, a 5-part webinar on trauma-informed care that over 2,200 people from our field participated on. We've done trauma-informing care, appreciate Sarah's leadership in all of our developmental centers, and also recognizing that some of the tough decisions that we're making in terms of needing to close a couple of those centers, looking at the impact of that trauma on our staff. So it's just not the individuals that we serve with disabilities, but also sometimes how our decisions impact the staff that we serve as well. So we really appreciate being a part of this initiative with the Department of Mental Health and Addiction. Appreciate Tracy and Mark including us in events and discussions, and being able to share a bit the leadership as we move forward. It's having a huge impact on the lives of the folks we serve. Again, thanks for what everybody out of this audience does every day to help make the lives of folks we serve better. So thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Cloud. I'm the director of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, and I feel compelled to start with 2 confessions this morning. First of all, I have nothing insightful to say about the Cavs, so everybody else did, I got nothing. But I am pleased, obviously, that the streak has been broken. But the other thing I wanted to confess, and I feel kind of guilty about this, while Dr. Hurst was reading medical journals last night, I was at the Sting and Peter Gabriel concert. I feel kind of guilty.
You win.
But thinking about why you're all here, you all know why you're here. I think one of the blessings of this sort of summit is that people can network and see what's happening in one place and think about how it might be translated and implemented in another area of the state, in another system, with another group of clients or patients. And I think that cross-pollination is one of the strengths of Ohio's approach to trauma-informed care. And I want to take a moment to thank Kim specifically and the leadership of the planning team. This is a year-long effort. This isn't just a single conference, but this is, how do we support regional work? How do we support work in individual organizations? Number one, on an ongoing basis, but number two, if something really terrible happens, there is now a network where we can refer folks for some technical assistance or some on-site assistance if need be, and that is something that we didn't have a number of years ago. And so I think that is a credit to everyone in this room, your tenacious approach to this and your energy and your creativity. So thank you. In thinking about today, though, and in thinking about where we're going in the future, I think that we also have an opportunity to think about the next level. Everyone is thinking about how to better engage our clients, the people we serve, with trauma-informed practices. But I would challenge you over this next day or so to think about how the same kind of approach could be applied within your organization with the staff team. John mentioned the closure of some of the developmental centers and how that is creating a certain kind of trauma for people who are looking at a major life change or looking at uncertainty of what's happening in another part of the system, and might that happen here, or how is that going to affect me? And I think about our own department's history. It's been 3 years ago, July 1st, that we consolidated the 2 cabinet agencies and became Mental Health and Addiction Services. And taking a hard look at where we are, I think, things went relatively smooth, but candidly, taking stock as the director, there's still work that needs to be done culturally, internally, because there are pockets where, I don't believe that there still is yet a sense of a single team. So how do we overcome that? How do we actually recognize and appreciate that we still have work to do? So I think, having conversation with leaders of child welfare organizations, there's significant churn with behavioral health organizations because people are stressed. There's a lot happening, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of really difficult circumstances with people you're trying to serve. And I would just encourage you to think about how trauma practices or just small interventions that can be introduced in the organization might make a difference with the staff team as a result. And so that's my challenge to you as you're sitting through the presentations and, in large part really thinking about how can we serve people better. Thinking about serving the internal customer is important as well. So at this point, it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Brian Sims. Many of you know Dr. Sims. He has been a national leader both within the Center for Trauma-Informed Care, which, by the way, has been extremely helpful as a resource, both on-site, telephone consultation, planning, really soup to nuts since we said that we wanted to undertake this initiative. And additionally, Dr. Sims is a national leader within the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors, functioning as the medical lead of that organization that represents all of the state mental health commissioners. And so he's called on for consultation and guidance on other subjects as well. And I think we are that's an example of how fortunate we are to have him with us today, because obviously he has a lot of demands on his schedule, and I'm just really pleased that he could be here. He's been personally a terrific resource for us, and your time with us is very much appreciated. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Brian Sims.